Hello NFL fans, welcome to NFL Picks with Dave. Today we're going to predict how things will play out this weekend. Last Thursday, the Los Angeles Rams defeated the Seattle Seahawks with a score of 26-17 as Seattle's defensive woes continue. Let's now move on to Sunday's games. Our first Sunday game takes us to London, where the Falcons will take on the New York Jets. Atlanta last week lost to Washington with a score of 34-30, while the Jets got their first win of the season by defeating the Tennessee Titans with a score of 27-24 in a shocking upset. This pick is a tough one. Since Atlanta is eager to avenge their loss, I'm picking them with a score of 34-31. However, anything can happen. Our next game is between the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans. New England last week lost to the Buccaneers with a score of 19-17 on a crazy Sunday night. Houston, meanwhile, got torched by the Buffalo Bills with a score of 40-0. This pick is pretty easy. I'm picking the Patriots with a score of 28-3. This pick is the lock of the week. Our next game takes us to Jacksonville, Florida, where the Jaguars will take on division rival the Titans. Tennessee last week surprisingly lost to the New York Jets, while the Jaguars lost to the Cincinnati Bengals with a score of 24-21. This pick is a tough one. Since Jacksonville had more time off, I'm picking them with a score of 20-17. Our next game is between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Carolina Panthers. Philadelphia last week lost to the Kansas City Chiefs with a score of 42-30. While the Panthers suffered their first loss last week by losing to the Cowboys with a score of 36-28. This pick is a tough one. Since the Panthers have a better record, I'm picking them with a score of 38-21. Our next game takes us to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the Vikings will take on the Lions. Detroit last week lost to the Bears with a score of 24-14, while the Vikings lost to the Browns with a score of 14-7. This pick is also tough. Since the Vikings are playing at home and put up a good fight with the Browns last week, I'm picking them with a score of 27-20. My next picks are the Buccaneers over the Dolphins, 34-14, the Saints over Washington, 21-10, the Steelers over the Broncos, 31-28, and the Packers over the Bengals, 35-28. Let's move on to the later games. Our first late game takes us to Las Vegas, Nevada, where the Raiders will take on the Bears. Las Vegas last week lost to the Chargers with a score of 28-14, while the Bears defeated the Lions. Since the Raiders are looking to rebound from their loss, I'm picking them with a score of 20-17 in a close one. Our next game is between the Cleveland Browns and the Chargers. The Browns last week defeated the Vikings in a wild shootout, while the Chargers defeated the Raiders. This pick is a tough one. Since the Browns are on a roll, I'm picking them with a score of 27-24. Our next game takes us to Arlington, Texas, where the Cowboys will take on the New York Giants in an NFC East showdown. New York last week defeated the Saints with a score of 27-21 to earn their very first win of the year. Dallas, meanwhile, defeated the Panthers. Since the Cowboys put up more points, I'm picking them with a score of 42-27. Our final late game takes us to Glendale, Arizona, where the Cardinals will clash with the 49ers in a showdown in the West. San Francisco last week lost to the Seahawks with a score of 28-21, while Arizona defeated the Los Angeles Rams with a score of 37-20. Since Arizona is red hot, I'm picking them with a score of 31-27. Now let's move on to the last two primetime games. Our first primetime game takes us to Kansas City, Missouri, where the Chiefs will host the Buffalo Bills in an NFC Championship rematch. Buffalo last week killed the Texans in their second shutout win of the season. Kansas City, meanwhile, defeated the Eagles. This pick is probably the toughest one this week. Since Buffalo had a more convincing win, I'm picking them with a score of 35-32. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. This could be a wild Sunday Night Football matchup. And now, the last pick of the week. It's the Colts taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Indianapolis last week defeated the Dolphins with a score of 27-17, while the Ravens defeated the Denver Broncos with a score of 23-7. This pick is a tough one. Since the Ravens limited the Broncos to only 7 points, I'm picking them with a score of 38-17. And that does it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to get the latest videos that's posted to this channel. Also, be sure to like and follow this channel's Facebook page if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching and hope to see you again soon.